It is part two of the podcast for this week as we reflect on all that's happening in South African football. We did the Monday night edition where we recorded that on Monday nights, Thursday night now. And so the news cycle has moved on a little bit with things that have come out as far as gazettes from the government and whatnot. So we're going to tuck into that in a few moments' time. But my panel made up of John T. Mark, Veli Limnyandu, and Mazola Mulefe. I guess it wouldn't make sense for us to not start here because this day, 10 years ago, saw the beginning of the World Cup, the first day of the World Cup here in South Africa. So reflecting on that, let's start with you, John T. What are your memories of FIFA 2010 with Philip being around back then?
Yeah, well, I can't quite believe it's a decade, firstly. Just feels like not yesterday, but it certainly doesn't feel like it was a decade ago.
Right.
But I was in the stadium reporting for IOL at the time. I actually found now a live play-by-play that I did of the whole game while sitting there in the stadium. I can remember, obviously, there was a lot of excitement. And, there was quite a lot of tension as well with the game at 0-0. Until Shabalala sent that rocket into the top corner that's been talk of the town, or was talk of the town then, talk of the town this week. But in terms of noises at a football stadium, in 20 years of journalism, that's about as loud as I've heard it. The noise after Shabalala scored. I think I was in Kinshasa about 2004 for a Bafana game against DR Congo, and DR Congo scored in the last minute. I think that's just about comparable. The noise in Kinshasa, but the noise was amazing. And then obviously everyone got a bit deflated because some slightly sloppy defending, and they got an equaliser, Mexico, and it all ended. A draw on the face of it wasn't such a bad result, but in the end, obviously it's we got knocked out in the group stages. But that Shabalala goal briefly, really brought whole nation to life, I think, and really the celebrations around that were amazing.
Yeah, Vili, take me back, I guess people will say, because also as far as South African football, or a month's worth of big games with sold out stadiums, with all the commotion in the fan parks, I mean, we've never had anything quite like it since then. And it's kind of sad that we have to wait for such a big occasion to have such a big celebration of football as a nation.
Yeah, well, look, they always say, firstly, good evening, gents. They always say with the World Cup, yes, the Olympics is the biggest sporting event, multi-code maybe sporting event, but when you look at the World Cup, it is the biggest event. I think there's no other tournament bigger than the World Cup. So, I remember a year before we had covered the FIFA Confed, and you could see the attention that was there. But with the World Cup, it was just something totally different. And you could see this, especially the three of us here. We were very much involved in the coverage. Even of Bafana leading to the tournament, even a year before with the FIFA Confed as well. You could see what was building up. But I remember it was just a few days. I think on the day of the parade, because in fact, most of us as journalists were opposed to this parade because we were not getting access to players. And then at the time when you want to build up the players, I mean, who goes on a parade 2 days before the big sport has to start?
Before.
So yeah,
being the key word.
Yeah, but I guess at that time the excitement was catching up with everyone, especially the bosses, But I think for me, also because especially me and Mazola, we're not even based here. We're going to be based in Bloem. So the opportunity to go and watch the opening game, one was not really working at the opening game, but you know what? It's the first game of the World Cup, and we are playing, and you know what? We want to be there. Whether we are working or not, and we are not going to be assigned to cover matches in Joburg, And I remember going there on the day. Man, you know, that's the day when objectivity goes out of the window. You know,
Yeah.
I'm supporting my country. You know, and I remember how crazy we were, especially throughout the game. Man, and I think for me, the Shaba moment, the goal, no. I can't describe the feeling when Shaba scored that goal. But also I remember there were chances that we were supposed to score. Because if you notice, I think we scored around the 54th, 55th minute, and they equalized on the 79th minute. In between that, we should have scored at least 2 goals, you know. But yeah, you know, it wasn't to be. But at least we got a point in that opening game. But look, the World Cup, no. I went to the FIFA Confed in Brazil, and I went to the World Cup last year. In fact, a year before last year in Russia. Yeah, the excitement is there, but in your home country,
yes,
watching your national team playing,
right.
I know,
Hits
and you're
different.
very much involved. You're part of it, you know.
Right. It hits different. Yeah, no, for sure. Mazola, I mean, we're reflecting on the opening day, but you're more than welcome to pick out any moment throughout that month of football that kind of stood out for you, professionally and personally.
Yeah, I must say, sharing a cold beer with Mr. Mnyandu there, and his then girlfriend, now wife, in Bloemfontein. I must say, it was the highlight of my World Cup. I think also that's where sort of our bond as friends as well kind of picked up, because we spent a month together, or was it 3 weeks? I can't remember, 3 weeks or whatever. However, it was long. It was long enough. You know, covering, you know, I think we watched, you know, we did eventually get to watch Bafana France. We watched England and Germany. Yeah, we watched some pretty big games. We covered some pretty big stories. Initially, when I was told I was going to Bloom, obviously, yes, it's closer to home. I had uncles and aunts there as well, but it was excuse me, it was bittersweet in the sense that I wanted to be in Johannesburg because I felt that's where the action was. But you know, being in Bloom turned out to actually to be quite a joy. You know, personally and professionally. You know, it was it was amazing. I was saying to Velile and his wife now that when they found archives, pictures of us sitting at a chisanyama, I can still smell the meat.
And you know, we're going through the pictures, and we didn't get to see your picture. And I remember that we had stored some of the pictures on my old PS3. So now I've had to go and look for that PS3 and put it back, and just to get this picture, you know, because we really had a good time.
Right.
Yeah, my girlfriend then, now my wife, and she was also studying at UOFs at the time. And she in fact, she was also a volunteer at the World Cup.
Right.
Yes.
Back then. So, you know, very interesting.
Mixing business with pleasure there.
Yeah.
I know, cool, Chance. Thank you. I appreciate the reflections. For me, it was incredible. I mean, I was stuck in Joburg the whole time, but I was working for one of the telecoms companies, meaning that we just kind of do promotions and then kickoff. You're sneaking into the stadium to catch the matches. So yeah, I was fortunate in that sense. I got to see my fill of World Cup matches, and for nothing. So, you know, it was work, but volunteering at the same time, and it was a good experience 10 years ago. Wow, crazy.
I know that it's something that most of us don't want to share, but hey, I think during the World Cup, everyone was making top dollar around that time,
Especially it was a good time. It was a good time. Let me put it this way, right? I was getting my first property that year. I was moving out of home, and World Cup allowed me to walk into a furnished home. Let me put it that way. So, you know, it was good from that perspective that I kind of was able to make enough to say, hey, thanks, Philip. Thanks, Philip. Philip helped me out. Gents, let's carry on with the order of the day. we spoke about this in terms of, obviously there was that false start that happened from the government saying, hey guys, you guys can train. Clubs wanted to train and couldn't train. But now, John T, it's kind of been formalized. It's been gazetted, I guess that's the buzzword, as far as who's allowed to train and who's not allowed to train and who's allowed to play contact sports and non-contact sports behind closed doors, all that kind of stuff, kind of given more clarity as of today.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, the first time I've observed kind of government processes maybe this closely, because they've been so involved in football, obviously because it's them who ultimately decide when we play. And I've seen, like, it seems to me that the wheels move painfully slowly at times, because you think the club should have really been in training from when level 3 kind of started.
Right.
But when I hear the word gazetted, I have an image of someone with like a quill and a sort of ink thing that they dip it in, and then they write they gazette the regulations like slowly. Right. And it's just like it's taken its time, but it looks like non-contact training in groups of 5. I'm assuming from next week. And if you look at the timeline from the EPL, if they are following a similar program to that, they started non-contact training in groups of 5 on May the 18th, around then, and their season is starting on June the 17th. So if you look at the timeline there, you're looking at, if we stick to the same timeline as England, then we should be starting sometime in the middle of July with the PSL fixtures again, if everything goes smoothly. Obviously, that's assuming that there's no changes to the level or drop to level 4 or whatever it is, assuming that the infection rate is under enough control that the government think that it's fine to resume. But that's seems to be the general timeline, is about a month from the start of non-contact training, you can start playing again.
Yeah.
Hopefully mid-July we'll see some action.
Right, yeah. Stavej, we were talking about how, I don't know, all this time that has been taken to get to where we are, just strikes, as a missed opportunity to be training, to be, getting back to fitness. And, we still have a situation where PSL are silent. SAFA, I see there's an article excited about what's happening in the world of sport under COVID, which was a bit strange, celebrating the return of football and in other leagues, and obviously nothing being said about what's happening here. So where do we stand between SAFA and PSL? Because it seems like they're not vibing still, and nothing has been said, even though we're getting to Thursday already.
Yeah, well, I think you will recall, I think it was last week when the Joint Liaison Committee, they mandated SAFA President Dr. Jordaan and Dr. Khoza, the PSL chairman, to go and meet the minister. So finally that meeting took place this afternoon. And I understand that tomorrow we are going to have an indication as to when will football resume, especially going back into the field of play. So that meeting took place today. And also, I think in terms of training, one of the things which also maybe puts football in a bit of a comfortable situation now is that, unlike rugby next to it, there's no insistence on football maintaining, maybe having non-contact training when they resume training. So it tells you that with football, yes, they could be returning, maybe let's say within a week having returned, they can go straight to having contact training, So I think that's another thing which maybe puts us in a bit of a promising situation for football, because I think this meeting was crucial, the one which took place this afternoon. I understand that I think the PSL was targeting the date what was been about was around the 4th of August, because remember, and this is something that Dr. Khoza said to ENCA earlier this week, say beyond the end of this month, if football is not continuing, PSL will not be continuing to pay grants to the clubs.
Right. Yes.
So you know what follows after that? It's retrenchments, and not only for the players but also for the staff members. Contracts are expiring. It's another thing when you say contracts are expiring, but because PSL will be continuing to play in July, so we're still on that plan that FIFA has organized. But it's another thing when you say contracts are expiring and there's still no indication if there will be football. So who is going to pay those players whose contracts have expired and if the season has not been finished? So all in all, I think it's promising signs for me. What we are observing, because at the end of the day, it's not SAFA, it's not PSL, and it's not FIFA which is going to come with the final outcome as to when can football resume and will football resume. It's government, because FIFA has already declared that falls within government. So I think the indication now and the hope is that, as it has been happening, we could be going to level 2, because level 3 doesn't allow football to continue to go back to playing. It's only non-contact sport. So I guess we remain hopeful that we'll go down to level 2 next month, and then football can get a chance.
Mazola, I guess on that point is that it's very evident that the government are in the driving seat. But I mean, do you feel that pressure from the league, from the stakeholders, could have not forced some sort of resumption of training and all these things? We speak about level 2 having to kick in place for football to happen. But surely there can be a situation where football continues, even if we still need to balance the sensibilities of the levels with the country. So if the country is not ready for level 2 come the end of the month, surely it can't mean that football on its own, with plans of being in isolation, can't continue.
Yeah, correct. You spot on there, Kamza, because I think the PSL have kind of always been trying to have some kind of agreement with the government that hence there's been a task team within the PSL itself. There's been a task team with along with the mother body. I think the idea has always been that even if we don't move levels at all, remember all these conversations, the task team coming up with a safety and health regulation sort of report, they began even when we were still at level 5.
Right.
Even from the time when the president announced, strict lockdown measures, even before he could even discuss the different levels. So my understanding was that, even at that time, the PSL would try and still be able to resume play, because like you put it, Gamza, if the country isn't ready to move to level 2, then is the government saying absolutely no sport whatsoever? Because then you are definitely telling those sporting codes, whichever sporting code it is, that you have to find another way to pay salaries. You have to find another way to keep athletes employed, because there has to be some kind of compromise. I think hence there were tasks team and all of that to prove to the government that yes, even under level 5 or level 4 or level 3, whatever level, we can continue to play football following these guidelines. So I think I'm with John T. It's moved at snail's pace, incredible snail pace. I think, players are frustrated. Club officials are frustrated. I think the chairman of the PSL himself is also frustrated, because otherwise, why would you why would you have make a statement like you did on ENCA this week when you could have made mention of that to the BOG? And I don't think he mentioned that grants would be affected by the end of the month at the BOG meeting, because then club officials or club owners would have started to make some sort of plan. So I don't know, is it a strategy maybe to also give, to ring the alarm bells to say, look, if we can't go back to playing, then this is the situation.
Right, we're running out of time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, if you look at these regulations which were gazetted today, there's 25 sporting codes, non-contact sports bodies, which will be allowed to go back to playing. And this includes tennis, includes cricket, golf, volleyball, baseball, and you mentioned them. And then you have those codes which are allowed to go back to training, like football, basketball, hockey. But like I said earlier, rugby is facing a tricky situation where they can resume training, but only non-contact training methods that they'll have to use. So, and this is under level 3. So let's say we continue with level 3, or we go back to level 4. Football cannot start playing because they are not one of the codes which were within those 25 sporting codes,
right?
Which allow, yes. Right. But what I'm getting from this thing is that if we go down to level 2, for a sporting code like football, and that is why rugby came out clear. Rugby came out clear to say they are targeting to come back into playing in August.
Right.
Because also, you see, there are some deliberations which are taking place.
As to whether what?
And those deliberations, they don't have to go public about them. For instance, I understand that even with cricket, they are planning something, an exhibition game before the end of this month. And because they can go back to playing, that is something that they can just easily do. So that's why I'm hopeful. But in our country, we are this African country which is influenced too much by what is happening in the West. So tonight, La Liga is coming back, and then you have.
Mazola's not looking forward to that. Just by the way, made it clear. Mazet couldn't be bothered with Real Betis.
I'm surprised because Athletic Bilbao is playing Sevilla, or is Real Betis in Sevilla?
It's a Seville derby, not Betis.
Yeah. That's an exciting game. But look, Mazet
is might not be so exciting with no one in the stadium, though. Derby passion from fans. It's empty.
Mazola is more of an EPL fan. I'm more La Liga fan. So
right.
Yeah, but also you have the EPL coming back next week, and also you have the Serie A as well. Bundesliga is already there. So these are some of the things which are going to put pressure in our government. Because look, on the other side, the government, I think they've been very clear about this now. That they are more looking on not just combating this COVID-19 pandemic, but also now addressing the economy needs, because the economy has been suffering. And if you bring back a sporting code like football, there's a sector which you'll be saving, So, and also, I've been seeing, even on the continent, Tunisia, they've been training and they're very close to playing now. The Ministry of Sport, in fact, the Minister of Sport himself in Egypt came out yesterday that they are going back to playing in October, in fact, in August. So they'll be resuming training next month. So look, I think it's just a matter of time. For me, I can put my heart on the block and say the teams will resume training next week.
Yeah, training for sure. It's very easy to put your head on the block for that. I want you to put your head on the block for when they're going to go back to play.
Well, that one depends. That one depends. That one is not really. It's not just up to the minister. That one. You understand? Yeah, it's not just up to the minister. It's also about when are we going one level down.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
But, that leads into the point that we're saying that if the cases go up and football's money or funds or economy is going down, those two things don't speak to each other. So someone is going to suffer. All I'm saying is that we could end up in a situation where the country says, hey, listen, this thing is getting out of hand. Let's go back up. and then what happens of football. So anyway, let's see what happens.
Well, football, because I've seen the PSL plans. The PSL plans are very good. In fact, the PSL plans, in any case, they are not drawn for hotspot areas. They are drawn for areas which don't have high numbers.
Right.
And also, I mean, even in terms of having the base, So in any case, PSL plans are not for your Cape Town. They are not for your Joburg, your Durban.
Sure.
They are for your cities and the provinces which don't have the numbers.
For sure.
So in my opinion, especially now, also the flights are back again. So even getting those teams to the areas which are not hotspots,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not really an issue.
Okay. Let's keep it moving. Next angle we're looking at is, of course, what's been happening with Bidvest Wits. It would seem now that as far as the race is concerned to get Tyson's signature, Mazola, the Buccaneers are front and center with getting this deal over the line. How is that true? And what else is happening of the other playing personnel at Bidvest Wits?
Yeah, I don't want to put my head on the block here, like other publications have, saying so and so is definitely joining that team, and then they have to retract it. So I'm not going to say yes, Tyson is signed for Pirates, because the fact of the matter is I don't know 100%. I suspect he's going to Mamelodi, to Orlando Pirates, but I can't rule out the fact that Mamelodi Sundowns have offered him a 5-year contract split in straight 3 years and 2 added options and a whole lot of money for him to consider. And we know when it comes to salary packages, Orlando, not even Orlando Pirates, no team can be compared to Mamelodi Sundowns. But what I do, I can tell you what I do know. What I do know is that he's got 2 offers in front of him that he needs to consider, and it's looking like Pirates could potentially win that race. I don't want to put. I know Times Live reported that Pirates have won the race to his signature. When we reported that Tyson has turned down Mamelodi Sundowns' initial offer, because I understand they had put an offer before him, but the numbers were not what he was looking for, and they subsequently sent another proposal which had better numbers that easily make him a high earner. That easily make him a high earner at Mamelodi Sundowns. So he's got that to consider. But yeah, my understanding is that obviously Pirates are definitely in the mix, and it's leaning more towards Orlando Pirates. But I don't know for sure what he's gonna decide, or if indeed he's decided yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, John T, imagine you're getting Hunt, and you're kind of sitting there watching in slow motion your best players kind of being auctioned off to what are essentially your competitors. What do you think he's going through at the moment? That must be quite some sensation.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if Gavin Hunt's considering his future for next season at the moment.
For sure, but you have to have a club that wants you, right? Or a club with a vacancy. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, sure. This season still has to finish, obviously, and he'll have his players, I'm assuming, until the end of the season.
Right.
Which is also why I don't think you're going to see any official announcements anytime soon, because nobody knows when next season's going to start. So how do you start a contract with someone if you don't know when they're going to join you exactly? So I guess there may be a possibility of kind of a pre-contract type of agreement being signed. But for signing an actual contract, I'm not sure how you do that when you don't know exactly when you're going to be playing for the club that you're signing for. But yeah, I've also heard that obviously Tulani Hlachwayo grew up as an Orlando Pirates fan, so that's seen as a big reason why he would choose Pirates over Sundowns. So it may not, Sundowns may be paying him more money, but his heart may take him to Pirates at the end of the day. Yeah, but if I'm Gavin Hunt, I think, or any of the Wits players, I'm sitting a little bewildered at the moment. Certainly, the fact that the Wits, a year before this centenary, talked about this on Monday. Bidvest have just decided, okay, well, we're selling the club, and we're selling off. Not just that, we're selling off as many players as possible, is what it seems like.
Yeah.
So I would be a bit bemused if I was Gavin Hunt, and I'd be looking around. I mean, Gavin Hunt's a top coach. I don't think Gavin Hunt will have a problem finding work.
For sure.
If his tenure at Wits is come to an enforced end, and I don't think Gavin Hunt will take over as coach of TTM.
Of course.
Obviously he's been linked with Chiefs. He talked about that this week. I saw some reports saying, he didn't really want to talk about it too much because there's obviously Middendorp in the job, and Chiefs are top of them. That needs to play itself out. So I don't think for him it's a massive problem. I think for some squad players at Wits, it's more problematic. Perhaps players who do worry about who their next club will be, and also, but also my feeling is really for the staff at Wits that have been there for years and years and years, and who now could find themselves jobless, and where would they go? Some of the the staff that have been part of the club for so many years. It's sad for them. I think it's mostly sad for them. I think it's players. If you look at most of their squad, they're of a high enough quality that they wouldn't have too much trouble either, like Gavin Hunt, a little bit finding another club if they needed to. But I think, I feel for the staff of Wits because, it's perhaps more difficult for them if the club does end up getting sold.
Yeah, I guess they are. High stakes.
Sorry, just to end off, I did notice that there is a clause in the PSL, in the NSL handbook, quite a clear clause that says you cannot own another club 12 months after you've...
That's never stopped anyone.
I was
wondering. No, I understand.
The other day as well.
It's there. It's not stopped. It's not stopped anyone, but there is a clear clause there. But I don't know. I guess they just ignore it.
Yeah, you can just ignore the clause. It's fine. Why not just ignore the clause?
Yeah,
if it helps everybody make some money and move a club along, let's just ignore the clause. What's happening in Bloem, Belly? Because now it looked like when I was coming along to help the club with the sponsorship. Now there's no sponsorship. The club are saying, hey, we're still in discussions. And it's a strange way, a sponsorship. Because it's
sort of comes like, Bloem, I would like to weigh in on the Wits one. Bloem.
It's small fry, that one.
No. There's something that I don't understand. It's like sometimes people are being used to just prop up the money, make this offer to go high, and people
okay.
So I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, you said enough. Go ahead with the Wits.
Yeah. This thing of players, you see, at this time, transfer gossip is not easy, because transfer gossip doesn't really equate to
deals
doing
being
some
done.
good investigation, and it's also sometimes agents, they use this opportunity to get good deals for their players, and sometimes they do that by using some of us,
For sure.
And so now
I'm not being used, though. I'm not being used.
No. No. I'm not saying you, but if the shoe, if this shoe fits your size, yeah. So if you look at, one of the things I've had this week, how does a player move from getting paid, say 700K annually, to being paid 6 million or 7 million annually? Really?
Yeah.
Where have you heard of something like that?
Right.
So this is where we have to be very careful of these agents sometimes, because they would use this opportunity, and if you are foolish in how you cover it as well, you can easily fall for their trap,
Right.
Because for me, that this transfer season window, because these clubs know that as things stand, there's only 1 or 2 clubs, maybe 3 clubs, which are buying players. In fact, when we had an interview recently with Stan Matthews, he did say that you'll only see Sundowns, But I think Paris also does have that appetite of buying players, and it's sometimes Chiefs, and don't rule out Chiefs from signing players, because they can sign players, but they can't register them.
Yes.
Because they can sign players, and me and you all know that they've signed this player. Will you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, for sure. But I mean, also as a player, it's a tricky one, because I'm saying to you as a club, how sure are you of winning this case?
Yeah.
'Cause, like, you're asking me to sign, but I have no guarantees that I might be in your team. So I think they have the weakest proposition out of the big 3, so to speak.
Don't be sure. I'm telling you right now, don't be sure. Because even the ban, if things don't go their way in September, the ban will be up in June next year.
Yeah.
And they will still need players. In fact, I don't think they are the only team to have gone through this. Where they will sign the players and park them somewhere.
Right.
Because for a team like them, and looking at that wholesale that is happening, that they call it the jumbo sale that is happening at Wits. I mean, there are some quality players there who can boost their team. So the one that is a bit puzzling, but not really, is this one of Tyson. I mean, if you look at the figures that are being offered to Tyson by Sundowns, they could make him easily in the top 3, if not the top 2 of the highest paid players in the
country or in the continent.
No, in the country.
No.
In the country.
Okay.
Yeah, no, easily. I mean, I'll just not mention the figures, but those figures. I mean, so does he want to go there, or he doesn't want? Well, it's another issue. It's another story for another day, because I think also the thinking is also about post football career as well,
right?
And also the chances of playing as well, because at Sundowns there are some young centre backs there, and at Sundowns you'll not be playing regularly. Do you want to go there as a Bafana captain and not get regular action? But when you mention Kevin Hunt is sorted. I don't think Kevin Hunt will really struggle,
right.
And I don't even see him leaving the province for that matter.
Okay. Hint, nudge, nudge. I'm going to leave it at that, because our Zoom time is up. And Mazola has to go back to being, a dad. You too, Jonty, your partner's looking for you. I'm done for the night, but a nice way to end it with a bit of mystery. Let's see what happens. Kevin Hunt won't have to leave the province, Billy Lemnyandu says. Gents, thank you so much for your time. I'll catch you in the new week. Have a good weekend. Look after yourselves.
Yes.
Hey, Tara.